Unplugged. I'm so glad you could join us this week. Ladies, thank you for being here. We have Kate Archer, Alexa Aston, and E.L. Johnson with us today. And we're missing, Catherine Levesque has a release with Alexa Aston, so Alexa's going to have to carry the weight for both of them. And then Sandra Succo was unable to meet with us, so we're going to have to do her another time as well, but she also had a release. I'm tired of saying that we're having a busy week at Dragonblade because it seems like we're always having a busy week at Dragonblade. But this week we had lots of really exciting releases. So taking the time to join us, I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
So, Kate, your book was The Undaunted. I love the titles of these, and the covers are just gorgeous. Is it book 3 in a series of Worthy Young Ladies?
Yes.
Right. Can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Yeah, so the series concept is that there are 6 matrons who are very well-to-do and middle-aged, and they're done having children. None of them have ever had a daughter. So while most people are hoping for the son, they've had sort of too many of them. And over the years, they've really bonded over this because they really dreamed that, they would be bringing out a young lady and, sort of get the accolades of that. So then they come up with this scheme, assuming that there's got to be girls out there who have the right background but no money, and we'll sort of whisk them away from their families. And they go into this project, very blind because they never had daughters and weren't really involved in raising their sons. So they just imagine that they're going to have these very courteous, grateful girls who just love them so much. And of course, that's not really what happens. And so The Undaunted is book 3. It's set in Brighton, and Lady Easton is the matron. She didn't get to pick her own girl. Her husband, who has really never had ideas or opinions, suddenly does and forces her. And it turns out she doesn't know, but he owes an awful lot of money to Miss Upton's father, which is why he set up this whole scheme. So they go to Brighton and they're trying to launch her in Brighton, which is not really typical. And the regent's involved, and her nephew has come along to try to help her. And they're both thinking this girl is going to be very cooperative. She's not. And they're both very regimented. I really gave Lady Easton sort of an OCD personality. Mm-hmm. And then she's got a butler who's just like her. So between the two of them, they're just like impossible. And then Caroline just throws, all their plans out.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun. So who is the hero of the story?
That's Lord Bertridge. And he grew up with very irresponsible parents who died when he was pretty young. So he's really looked at his aunt, Lady Easton, as the model. And so he's not OCD, but he does kind of act like her because he doesn't, that's been his model. He respects her. And so they're both very, very rigid, very rigid. And Caroline is not rigid.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun. It's kind of like Grumpy Sunshine, but without the grumpy part.
He's pretty grumpy. Yeah. I mean, he's offended all the time about, people stepping out of line. Yeah.
Grumpy Sunshine is absolutely one of my favorite tropes of all times. I love it when she's light and fun and he needs to get over himself. So
yeah, he only has a soft spot for his dog. He's very indulgent with his dog, but otherwise he expects people, to stay in line. He doesn't like the regent. He doesn't like all the scandals. He doesn't like Lord Alvanley and that whole fast set. And Caroline, of course, does. They're so much fun, and they get her into all kinds of trouble.
Well, I bet Brighton isn't very much to his taste either, I would imagine.
No, none of them had set foot in Brighton because it was the regent's summer playground. And yeah, they just wanted to steer clear of that whole scene, but they're stuck with it. So.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun. So the other book that we had launching this week is Alexa Aston and Catherine Levesque's First Regency. So Alexa, usually we get to talk about gentlemen, like the second sons of London or dukes, but this is the sinning Flynns. Can you
It
tell us a little bit
is.
about this?
Well, Catherine has a tendency to throw challenges out at me and give me opportunities that sometimes I don't really want to do, but who can say no to Catherine Levesque? So she came up
Not
with
me.
this
I
idea.
can't say no to Catherine Levesque.
Well, she said, let's do a duet together. And I had gone to a con a couple of years ago, and it was a big thing in the contemporary world then, these duets and everything. So at least I knew what she was talking about. So I kind of knew what I was committing to. And so she's the one that came up with this family, the Sinning Flynns. And basically they had sort of a pirate smuggler type history. And one of them does a favor for the king and gets awarded a title, the Earl of Sinclair. And that's where the sin part comes in. He marries a duke's daughter. She kind of runs off from the guy she's supposed to marry. So all of that was backstory. But the couple had 4 sons. And so we each got to create our own son. And we decided that the other 2 were the older sons. And they were the ones that had just the horrible sinning reputation. But they were tamed. And we all know that the best husband is a reformed rake. And so they're living in Cornwall, a nice life now, but it's the 2 youngest. Catherine's is Rory, mine is Aiden. And so their grandfather has this huge ball every year. It's called the Stag Ball. And it's like the event of the season. Everybody's trying to wrangle an invitation to it. And so in my story, one magic night, Duke, and my hero calls him Duke, D-O-O, because when he was little, he couldn't say Duke. He just called him Do, and the nickname stuck. So Do wants him to marry, but he has to find a bride that night of the ball. And he has to marry within 2 weeks. And if he does, the Duke is going to give him one of his unentailed properties. And so that's when he meets Larissa. And she comes from a family that they're almost as down and dirty as the Flynns are. They give the Flynns a run for their money, reputation wise. And so what she's wanting to do is marry someone 180 from her family. She wants, Kate, you're kind of priggish sort of guy. She just wants somebody very staid and everything. She's not looking for love. She's just trying
Follow
to
the rules.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what happens. And then Catherine's tale, her characters are Rory and Edie. And Rory is there for revenge. He's not there looking for love. He's not there trying to find a wife. And of course, Edie just smacks him, in the head, and he's gobsmacked and taken with her. And the whole idea of revenge kind of goes out the door, or does it? You have to kind of wait and read and see. But it was fun working with Catherine because we kind of came up with an outline for what the family was like and the little details, the name of the Duke's butler and, what the stag ball was about, what they would serve. And there's a big bonfire that takes place after and everything. But most of the action centers on that one night. So both of us wrote about a 40,000 word novella. And so it was a lot of fun, a cool project. And my hat is off to our editor, Scott Moreland, because he was the guy that had to put the pieces together, to make sure that there were, because there was one time my character met Rory, and there was another time in her book that Rory and Aiden met up at the ball. And so we had to kind of smooth some of the edges out. And Scott definitely, he made everything work like clockwork.
Oh, fantastic. I love the time constraint. When I got the graphics for it and it said, let the hunt begin, I was like, oh, this is fun,
Well, it's almost like thrillers with a ticking bomb, time plot kind of thing.
It's a wedding.
Really very condensed and all. So I actually let my characters meet a couple of days before and not, just kind of one of those chance meetings and all. And so when they get to the ball, they do know who they are. And like I said, Larissa, that's the last person she wants is to marry is a sinning Flynn. And by the way, I got the name Larissa from my granddaughter's babysitter. I just liked her name. And when she started going there, I was like, ooh, writing this one down. Don't know when I'm using it, but I like the name. So
it is a lovely name. It is a lovely name and unusual.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that sounds like huge fun. And we get 2 stories in one. So, it's like, what's not to love about that?
Exactly. And like I said, this is Catherine's first venture into Regency. And so I was excited to see what she was going to do with her character.
Yeah, because we can't have any big nights.
No, it's very, very different. She said that, that she really writes that, hard, in your face medieval kind of stuff. And you can't just pick up medieval and put it in Regency times. You've got to
Right.
conform to so many of the norms and rules and whatnot and everything. And so I think that was part of the challenge for her, was to do something different and out of her wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think I told her you need to get back in that comfort zone now and do some more.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun. So, Erin, El, your book comes out at the end of this week, the day that the chat airs, and it is The Poison Clergyman.
Woohoo! It is.
Which is book 2 in the Pepper Poison Murders.
That's correct.
Cool. Can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Sure. So it's the second in a series starring this girl, Poppy Morton. She's 20. She is dirt poor. She thinks that she's an orphan. She lives with her aunt and uncle in Hertfordshire, early 1800s. And her uncle is called away to attend to a sick relative elsewhere. And so he goes. And so it's just Poppy and her aunt. And her aunt is kind of I don't know if any of you have ever read MC Beaton's Agatha Raisin series, but it stars a detective who is a bit bullish and a bit brutish, but she's got a heart of gold. And that is how Poppy's aunt, Rachel is. But this clergyman comes out of the blue and they have no idea who he is or why, where he's come from. They have no clue. And he just kind of arrives. And I don't know if you guys ever had a guest who just finds fault with everything as soon as he walks in the door, including you, and you've done nothing wrong, but he is that person, I modeled him after a former work colleague who just annoyed everyone he came into contact with. I know. I've changed the names, obviously, but how when you're forming a character, you take one aspect of a person. I don't know if you guys all do, and then I shape a whole character around that one aspect. And I discovered with book 1, The Strangled Servant, that I write characters that people love to hate. They really do. And so I've just gone with it. And so book 2, I've got this character, this clergyman who, Mr. Ingleby, which is the weirdest name I could find,
That's even the right kind of name for somebody who finds fault with everything.
Right? Yeah, he's so stuffy and so pompous. But the thing about him is that he loves his puddings. So in the UK, I don't hear people talk about dessert so much as I hear them talk about pudding. What's for pudding? And so he loves his puddings. He loves his tarts, his cakes, everything, his biscuits, cookies, anything he can lay his hands on. And he's not very impressed with the fare that's served at the parsonage because they're used to being rather humble. They'll prefer to give food to the poor, that kind of thing. That's what they do. And so after a while, he stays with them at the parsonage. He does Sunday services, but he is only making friends with kind of the wealthier people in the town. He is avoiding people who are kind of sick. He's especially people who are rather poor. He's just finding excuses to be elsewhere.
Unclergy-like.
He completely. And so he's also, while he's, turning his nose up at the rich, at the poor people and the sick people, and trying to befriend the rich, he's also eating them out of house and home. And so he's dining very well and making lots of friends around the neighborhood. But he's also besmirching the name of Poppy and her aunt. He's talking all these horrible things about them to their neighbors. And so the gossip mill is running. And then all of a sudden, little accidents start happening. Little things start to go missing. He gets, a nasty bump on the head. He thinks he fell, but nobody knows. And then all of a sudden, there's a death, and nobody knows who did it. And that's it. So I write historical mysteries, and that is my,
So
that is
that one, because I wasn't going to mind that if that was the case.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Is the clergyman is he the one who's murdered, or is it someone else?
You're gonna have to read it and find out. But I love it because
find out.
I know you have to read it, right? But I mean, it's a foodie mystery, and so it's kind of cozy. It's purely historical, but if you love foodie crime and that kind of thing, it kind of touches all those borders, I'd say. And so it's kind of like Clue, except with food, basically. And so you have to figure out which baker could have done this. With what pie or what pudding. I love it. So
sounds like so much fun.
Thank you. And forgive me if you hear mewing. My cat has just walked into the room. So yes, don't mind me.
Well, cats are more than welcome as our dogs. And even if your errant children have made appearances.
Oh,
so
that's exciting.
So when you were working on the book, did you come across any interesting recipes or any interesting food things?
I had to look up quite a few things and start to make like a story Bible basically of what existed during my year and what didn't, and I'm sure you ladies do this as well. Like things like, you'll see in like pastry shops, like tiered cake trays, and those weren't around yet. So my story's set in 1806 and those weren't around. And so, but at the same time, things like arsenic were readily available. You could just go downtown and get some. And yeah, so yes, that kind of idea plays a role in my novel because, the poisoned clergyman. There we go. So yes, hope I haven't given too much away, but yeah, it's quite fun.
How many other books are left in this series?
So I think there's 2 more. I don't know about you ladies, but I always come up with more ideas for more stories while I'm writing this, one story. And so like, I'll be writing one and then I'll get ideas for like 5 more. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I could have like written those down. Oh man. But yeah, it's a 4-book series starring Poppy Morton, this cute, well, that's the other thing. My heroine, she's plain. Like, we're so used to Hollywood dramas starring Keira Knightley and these beautiful girls. But what about a girl who's not so pretty? She's just very, very smart. And that's how she's going to make her way. So that's my heroine. But the series stars her and Constable Dingley, who she kind of fancies. But like, yeah, she feels like he's out of her league. So we'll see what happens. But yes, that's my series.
Very cool. So I was wondering, Alexa, because I know that you usually write in series that are, 5 or so books long, what it was like to plan this, to plan a duet that feels a little bit more contained.
It was really different. I mean, just the time constraint of most, like 90% of the action happens that one night. That was very different for me. And of course, we have 2 more brothers. And so Kathy and I are thinking about, okay, maybe do we need to go back? Do we need to tell their stories? Because she's like me, she does series. So, I don't know. I think we're just going to wait and see how this is received. And then we'll kind of go from there. So in the meantime, I'll be sticking with Second Sons and whoever else is coming out next year.
And those were the rule-breaking brothers, right? The older brothers were the ones that weren't. They were.
Well, the dad, and once again, I think it'd be fun to go back and even tell his story. The 2 brothers were very wild, and they're really the ones that cemented the Sinning Flynn reputation. And so by the time Rory, the 3rd one, comes to town, he's wanting to live up to his older brothers. And mine is the baby. He's really not a Sinning Flynn. That's kind of the whole twist that I've put on it. He's more like his grandfather. His mother's family is she's a duke's daughter, and so they're from the highest echelons of the ton. And he looks like his brothers. He talks like his brothers. He sounds like his brothers, but inside, he's not his brothers. He's more his grandfather's, side of the family and everything. So that's kind of fun because he's been labeled with this moniker. He's got this albatross that he's wearing because he's a Sinning Flynn. And I mean, he's done the whole thing. He's done the gambling and he races his Phaeton. He's never lost a race. He actually is a smuggler. He has 3 different ships. It's set in the backdrop of the Napoleonic Wars. So he imports luxury goods for Dew and all of his friends. So he's making some money, but he also sees that the war is kind of wrapping up and he probably only has another year or so to get out of it. And so he really is wanting to go straight. And it's kind of nice that his grandfather is giving him this opportunity to have this property that he's always loved. But he's just got to find the girl and convince her. And then, of course, of all the people in the ton he picks a girl whose family has just as bad a rep as his does. And, like I said, she doesn't want to have anything to do with him. So he's got to do a lot of fast talking and dancing in one night.
Oh, that makes sense. So, Kate, you have more daughters planned in the series of Worthy Young Ladies?
Yeah, there's 6 books in this year. So 6 matrons, and they each get their own experience. Although, so I'm writing the 5th book now. They can see what a disaster each one has been. And yet they all go into it thinking, don't worry, I got this,
Mine will be different. That kind of optimism moves us through days sometimes.
Yeah, that's exactly what they think. And it was so much fun with them because the reason that I did it, in this sort of container is because I like to have a lot of humor in my stories, and they're just the perfect vehicle.
Yeah. And you write in the Sweet Dreams line.
Yeah.
The covers, they look perfect for the Sweet Dreams line. They all have this like just this lovely soft, and they feel perfect for the series setup too, which I love the idea of these mothers not mothers, bringing young ladies in with their preconceived expectations. So that sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, and it's just so fun for it to go wrong, and for the girls to not cooperate with their ideas. They're constantly in a tizzy and having meetings. They have a lot of meetings to figure out what went wrong and how to fix it, and they never do anything right.
So you said you were working on the 5th book now. Can each of you talk a little bit about how far in advance you work? Alexa, I know you plan everything posts way into the future, which makes you it makes my job incredibly easy because I always have what I need from you.
Yeah, I actually write about a year ahead.
Yeah.
So right now, 2022 was my Second Sons of London series, and we're through 3 of them now. So the 4th one comes out in about 10 days. So those will come out in July, August, October, November. Those will be the last ones that roll out. So that's
Marquette is the next one, I think.
and then,
Right?
yes, I'm deep into Suddenly a Duke is next year's series. It's 8 books, and I'm on 6 or 7 right now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I like to work ahead because I like to have that cushion in case something goes wrong. And in fact, what I do, I write the entire series, and then I go back to book 1 and I read straight through 1 through 5, 1 through 6, 1 through 8, whatever, just to make sure that I've got the names right and personalities consistent. And if there are breadcrumbs that I need to drop, something that happened in book 5 or 6, if I can drop some crumbs, back in 2 or 3, I'll go in and do that. So, yeah. So I'm a big picture kind of gal, but then I also like to drill down.
Yeah. Well, I love that idea because that's the way our readers read. When they write a book they like, they go the whole way through the series. So
yeah,
nice if you have a chance to do that too. And Kate, you've got one more book in this series after this one. Do you have something planned after that, or are you still working your way through?
I have 2 more after Undaunted. Yeah. Oh no, 3 more.
3 more.
One I'm just waiting for the edits, and then I'm working on 1, and then the last one. So there'll be 6 all told. And yeah, of course I have another. You always have these ideas, and now I'm finding that when I should be writing this book I'm supposed to be writing, I keep dipping into the other one, like, oh my God, this is so much fun. So yeah, we'll have to.
We call those shiny balls. It's like, oh, look, there's a shiny ball.
Yeah. So I'm just sort of thinking up that concept, but I think I know what it's going to be. And yeah, we'll see where that one goes.
I always find that when you get to the 80% mark, where you know what's going on, where you as the author know how things are going to work out, that it's so much harder to stay in the story and not get distracted by the next ideas that are coming. Because like E.L., like you said, there are so many ideas that come when you're working through a story. Excuse me. So E.L., do you have something coming up after this one?
Right. So I'm currently writing book 3 in the series, and I normally write a book I can write a book in about a month or 2. I write fast, and then I spend take a month off, and I spend months revising, editing, polishing, that kind of thing. But this time I've got so many suspects and so many deaths, and I really stretched myself here because I normally have quite small scale story, few cast of characters, quite self-contained murder mystery. And this time it's quite challenging. So it's taken me much longer to write it. I'm at that 80% mark. I've got I'm at the scene where it's the big reveal, where very much bring them all into a library and reveal, you did it. I'm at that stage, which is brilliant. But yeah,
Cheers.
It's exciting, but it's still, I hope I make my deadlines.
So do you know, I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that part. Do you know, Do you know who the murderer is when you start a story, or do you have to find out as you're working your way through?
I find out as I go along, and characters' motivations come in. And so I think that, it's one person, and then maybe they've got an accomplice, maybe they've got two, maybe the person that you thought was the murderer or murderess, maybe they're not at all. Maybe they were just, playing a few pranks to cause trouble, basically. My third book is all about mistresses. So they play all sorts of pranks on each other. So yes, it's good fun. But yeah, it's challenging, but fun.
Fun. So I know we talked a little bit about food for ladies. Can we talk a little bit about the kind of research that has to go in? I know, Kate, you had talked about setting this one at Brighton, so you would have had to know about Brighton to know, to be able to set it. Is there a specific way you like to research? Do you do it before you start the series? Do you find yourself going down rabbit holes as you're writing? Is there something in particular that catches you that you have to be careful of so that you don't spend all day in the place?
Yeah, a lot of times I'll just leave a sort of a question mark if I need to go back, because I don't like to do that. I have a full-time job. I only write on Saturdays and Sundays for the most part. So that needs to be writing. And then it's easy in the week to fit in a little checking. But Brighton was easier than I expected. There's a lot of information. I found an old interactive map.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, that was not, that did not take as much time. But I do have an Excel file of 24 tabs, so it goes by the letter, and then high subjects like clothes, and then boom, 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 boom. So I'm not reinventing the wheel every time I forget something in particular. It's just already there. And these people who write blogs, I feel like they're my co-writers. They give you so many resources, and you have to check them, make sure they're right, but it's all there. It's unbelievable. I don't know where they get the time, really.
I feel like you and Alexa might have to share notes, because your 24 tabs feels a lot organizational system that Alexa has for keeping track of everything that she does. So.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Yeah, I do my research, and I've got the Regency, and then their folders, food, custom, slang and curse words, men's clothing, women's clothing, holidays, house parties. just so many things, and then that are filed under those folders. And so sometimes I'll just research a big area, and then before I start writing a book, like maybe the book is centered at a house party, I may go back and just read notes from that house party file, just to see, what were some of the activities they did, what, where did they, when did they eat, where did they eat, what did they eat, that kind of thing, just so that I've got all of that at my fingertips and right here. And I'm the same way, Kate. I'll be writing, and I'll just stop and put blank, check research, that kind of thing, and then just skip to the next paragraph, because I can go down that rabbit hole. I taught history for many years. I love research. And so, yeah, if I stop in the middle, I lose all of my momentum. So it's just easier, if I'm looking for a certain poison and what the symptoms would have been, it would have just been like, arsenic, look at symptoms later, and then keep going and telling the story.
So if you're looking for a certain poison and somebody checks your search history, then we could.
No, the government will arrest me. I know. That's why I try to keep a low profile.
It was for a book, honest. Had nothing to do with the clergy card. Well, ladies, it was great to talk to you today. I really appreciate you taking the time. Sandra was not able to be with us here. She has a new book out in a new series. It's Romancing Miss Quill, and it's the first book in the Willful Wilburn series. So I'll make sure when I'll include the books for all the links for all the books in this chat, so you can grab them all. But I'll also include Sandra's too, so that you can get hers as well. And you want to get your Dragonblade books, pre-order and release day are absolutely the best value, but they're great value in Kindle Unlimited and also post-release as well, especially first book in series. So best deal around. Ladies, thanks for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate you spending time with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Pleasure.
We'll see you next week sometime.